Alright, so we skipped ahead a little bit again. They're talking about Rory and the day that Morgan was kidnapped, so we got new dialogue. He took me by the shoulders gently, peering down into my eyes.
It was a traumatic experience. It's fine to put some distance between yourself and that day. Whether or not it changes reality, it's fine to handle trauma on your terms and on your own timeline.
I know that, but thank you. In any case, this learning to use my Psi is at least partially to make sure something like that doesn't happen again. Okay, I remember the pants comment, so we can move ahead a little bit. Pulling it over my head, I rejoined them outside. Lance and Viria were still chatting with each other as they waited for me. Is this all new? No. She put on her shirt differently. Okay, interesting. I shot him a grin as I passed him, going to join the others at their car. I waved once, and then we were off. She didn't smooch him on the cheek. Molly sad. No cheek smooches.
It's easy to see some symbol and make a conclusion it's a spacecraft or a high-tech weapon, but without knowing the language, we should be careful about the conclusions we draw.
I've seen no compelling evidence the Senecans worshipped Arayans, though I also haven't seen compelling evidence to say they didn't. Okay, this is different. Interesting.
I mean, it's an interesting theory for sure. And I'm sure the fact that the language is ideographic means people will always be prone to speculate. Murals and sculptures aside, we have entire walls of text in the form of images. It's easy to see what we want to see.
Well, our brains are trained to look for familiar images to identify, so it's human nature.
True. Sometimes it feels like it makes us work harder, though. You know, we think Senecan culture on Arcalis predates the tidal locking of the world by the Arayans.
Okay, I think we're back. Yeah, we're back. Ah, Finch. He wouldn't mind talking to me? I mean, I'm from New Albion, so... If he was from Erebos, then he was a biosynth, and the Triad essentially sent them all into exile.
He's very friendly, and he knows about you. And he's been wanting to meet you.
Oh? Why?
He's in charge of all our record keeping, so he was the one going over your reports this whole time. He said they were quite thorough. He liked how you organized everything and explained where you found it. And he said your text descriptions were really accurate, so he used a lot of them in his official write-up too. He won't have a problem talking to you.
Cool. Can't wait to meet him again. Ah, drone for photographing. Oh yeah, because this time we didn't teleport, so she's not going to be like, yeah, I teleported up there and nearly died. I spent so much time the last few days wishing I had one of those.
I guess you didn't find a way out to the top of the rock faces either.
Oh, look who it is. Morgan, this is Finch. Finch, Morgan.
Great to meet you finally. I feel like I already know you after spending the last few days poring over your reports.
It's nice to meet you too. And no, I never did. It looks like there was a path up at one point that eroded away. I think I mentioned it in...
The first report. I remember. We'll get the drone up there to get a picture and see if there's anything interesting. At some point, we may need to make another way up.
You can't somehow use your Psi to get up there?
Oh, that's right. I forgot you were an Esper.
Well, I'm still a newborn in Esper terms. Lance is teaching me to use my abilities, but I have ways to go.
I'm surprised you didn't take a peek inside the structure with that Psi of yours. Or did you?
He motioned Eden and I to the steps where the others were congregating and talking. I was tempted at one point, but I don't know how I'd record that since there wouldn't be any proof to back up my claims. I can't take images of what I see with my Psi.
You could draw it out, I guess.
Oh, actually, wait, hold on. That was Eden. Sorry. Wrong voice.
You could draw it out, I guess.
I could, but I was hesitant to include something that didn't have stronger backing than a drawing. At least with the rest of my drawings, there are photographs to go with them. Okay. Thought that seemed familiar.
Well, your psi could still come in handy other ways after we confirm the presence of Array in tech or not. If you're fine using it. Not like there are any other Espers on the team, so I don't know if there's some kind of etiquette.
I've only been using my Psi for a couple of months at this point. If there's etiquette, I don't know it, so you don't need to worry. And there's no reason not to use it. I guess it's like just about any skill, right?
Glad to hear it. Well, who knows if we'll need it or not, but it's good to know what's on the table.
The thought of using it for work instead of something like self-defense or fighting, I'm feeling giddy about it. The night side, okay. Talking about visiting. I suppose it sounds a little overcautious to ask if it's safe, but I've heard stories about the sand lamprey colonies. Don't they make the crossing to the other side dangerous?
There are tunnels we can use through those areas, but we're also equipped to protect our transports if we need to.
Do you ever encounter Endgame? They have people stationed in the waste, don't they?
Ah, you're worried about the Esper thing.
A little. I am sort of a rogue Esper at this point.
They don't approach our transports. And so you know, we have Espers in our population too. Not many, but they're there. And Endgame doesn't have jurisdiction over them.
I'm not really from here, though. Okay. Talking about Lance and her, and they were like, oh, you're so perfect.
It's not rare to see him care about someone, but it's rare to see him invite someone to stay with him the way he has you. With many people, he might have sent them to one of our cities to be cared for. But he kept you by his side all this time. You're definitely special to him. That's more than enough for us.
That's good to know.
Well, regardless, it's not like we have any reason to turn you over to Endgame anyway. That Lance is close to you gives us another reason. That's all.
There we go. Okay, we're back. And this time, we're going to let Eden drive us. Alright, I'll let you drive me.
Hold on a sec then. I'm pretty sure they unloaded the ATVs earlier.
He left me there, jogging over to where Lynn was talking to Virio. He spoke to them for just a moment. They looked my way and waved. I don't think I remember her calling Lynette Lynn before. It's cute. A few minutes later, Eden came back to me and we went together to retrieve one of the small vehicles. Unlike the larger hover vehicles, this one was a 6-wheeled and 2-seated all-terrain vehicle that was open on the sides, top, and back. Oh! I expected something a little smaller.
We have smaller ones, but might as well take this one. It's faster.
It's not such a long drive that we have to worry about speed.
No, but going faster is more fun.
It worries me now that you're saying that.
Come on, hop in.
It wasn't a long drive at all. It was distressingly bumpy, though. The small vehicle had restraints, but I still clung for dear life as Eden drove, kicking up massive amounts of sand in our wake. Should have done a nice stroll with Lance instead. We were at Lance's house in a few minutes, in time to see him come outside. Eden left the vehicle running and didn't climb out even as I half-staggered out of it. Lance reached us just in time to help me safely out.
I was just about to leave to come find you when I heard the two of you coming.
I guess I saved you a walk, then.
Eden, we were going to have dinner soon. Do you want to stay? Huh. I'd love to stay, but they're starting to unload and set up camp, so I need to get back and help. Tell everyone I said hello. Morgan, I'll be back for you in the morning, then. If you want to help tomorrow, too.
Do you even have to ask?
No.
He grinned as he backed carefully away, then headed back to the site. He had the politeness to not speed up until he was far enough away to not throw sand in our faces.
I take it your time there was well spent.
It was. Do you want help with dinner?
Dinner is already finished.
I would have helped!
You worked all day.
So did you!
I like cooking.
I like helping!
Next time, then. I promise.
I bit my lip, still grinning, as I started inside when he motioned me to go first. What a gentleman. It was a good day today. A wonderful day. One might even say it had been perfect. Or at least pretty close to it. Girl is jazzed about everything. Alright. We be skipping. The team. Didn't you say you couldn't contact them earlier?
Trying to drive over would be an issue with my little car. Especially with strikes like that as a problem.
I can get over there fast if I teleport.
Morgan, you've never practiced that, and have never done it outside times when you were in emotional distress.
I'm sure you know the basic principles. Explain it. He looked very much like he did not want to explain it, and at first I didn't think he would.
Come with me. I want to try to contact them, but I'll explain it to you in case it's needed.
Oh gosh, I hope Finch isn't dead this time around. Because she's not going immediately, so I'm like, eee. Got it.
The key to hitting a target area is to put a very solid cage around a target area within your sphere and block out everything else. It's when you allow that cage to soften that you can miss your target, and end up somewhere unexpected.
I understand. We had been waiting a few minutes for Vireo to respond to Lance's message, but nothing. At this point, we were both worried.
Alright. We'll go out and let you try to teleport over.
He took my hand, squeezing tight.
Please be careful. Aim for a wide open place that is flat and has no obstructions.
I will. We went back outside, and there was still no sign of their trucks headed our way. The wind was picking up and the thunder coming more often, and the worst of it hadn't even arrived. The storm front hadn't reached us yet, so there was still time at least. I expanded my sphere, sweeping it out towards the hills where the site was. Right in front of the cave entrance was the kind of spot Lance described, wide open and flat. I targeted a small area within an otherwise open space and jumped.
Morgan?
His voice came over my nanosystem as I staggered out of the vortex, for a lack of a better word. I'm safe, no worries there, but I hear a commotion from the site. I'm going that way now.
Understood.
When I reached the open area beyond the caves, I found chaos. Vireo and several others were trying to put out what looked like a small electrical fire in some machinery. Okay, this might be... yeah. Okay, she's gonna try to teleport again.
Are you sure you can?
I teleported myself here, didn't I?
Yourself, yes. But have you ever taken a passenger anywhere?
I haven't, but I don't think there's much time here. It's the best option. If it's risky either way, then risky and fast is better, yeah?
You're right.
Lynette looked away but nodded too. I knew it was a tough decision, but Finch didn't look great. The rest of you should come as quickly as possible.
Please take care of him.
I'll do my best. Okay. Well, we may have luckily saved Finch again, thank goodness. I still felt guilty accepting their thanks for simply doing the right thing. But in some way it seemed more like their way of coping with the grief. I just hugged them all back and did my best to reassure them. Okay, we must not have had that one conversation about, you know, saying you're welcome and accepting thanks and things. I don't think we did, actually, now that I'm thinking back. It was touching to see how much they cared for Finch. Biosynths weren't thought well of in the domes. Those that didn't outright despise them didn't see them as people at the very least. But for this group, Finch was family. I was really glad I could help him in even a small way. Alright. Any affection in our future? Nope, no affection for this boy. Poor Lance. How are the others holding up?
They're worried about Finch, of course. But there isn't much that worrying alone will accomplish. They're trying to stay positive.
I suppose that's all any of us can do now.
Finch is going to be fine. Now that his power core and basic functions are stabilized, keeping him in a low-power dormancy will prevent any further damage to his systems. He'll be safe in this state for weeks, and this storm won't last that long. When they get him back to the city, he can receive proper attention, medical treatment, and repairs. His life isn't in danger. It's just difficult seeing a friend like that, I'm sure.
I agree. I was surprised how difficult it was to see him in that state. I've always thought injuries were difficult to look at because of, well, the blood. But it didn't matter that there was no blood at all. It was still horrible.
Dangers are an unfortunate part of life.
I know. It doesn't matter how safe you believe you are.
And everyone knows the waste can be as dangerous as anywhere else. I'm glad no one else was hurt. A human might not have survived those injuries.
Okay. And we back? Aw, and they'd be smooching. His lips lingered against mine for a long moment, and the storm was temporarily forgotten as I let the warmth of his body flow into me. He pulled away and rested his forehead against mine, a soft smile coming to his lips. Alright, we had a nice smooch. And then we weren't interrupted by the bang, I guess. Okay, she's offering, I was like, makes you uncomfortable? Oh, this is probably about, do you want to, like, share a bed? Maybe he won't this time. If it makes you uncomfortable, you don't have to. I was a little surprised he was hesitant. Normally it seemed like he'd accept on the grounds we were both adults and it was being done out of necessity. Seeing him hesitate made me wonder if I'd make a mistake offering. It was true. I was starting to feel for him, something I was confident he reciprocated. For me, things like that didn't matter when it came to him needing a good night's sleep, but the look on his face was making me believe he must see it in a different way. I took his hand gently. It's okay to say no. I won't be offended, okay? So don't worry about that. I just want you to be comfortable.
It doesn't make me uncomfortable when I think about sleeping with you. That isn't it. I wasn't expecting the offer, and then I suddenly didn't know what to say.
He squeezed my hand back.
I've just imagined what it would be like to wake up next to you before. Many more times than I'd like to admit. It probably sounds strange to say this.
Is this all new? Okay, there we go. Wondering if you'll be able to sleep with her next to you, right? I have thoughts like that too, obviously. But sleeping in the same bed doesn't mean more than that we're comfortable enough with each other to sleep in the same bed. There's no reason it has to mean anything more.
You're right, of course. When you first arrived, I thought the feelings you sparked in me were just loneliness, and that I was only grateful for company. But I realized the only way to know for sure was to let things play out. Yet now I keep finding myself wanting more, and more, than being afraid of pushing you away because I want too much.
I don't believe that will happen.
I hope it won't happen, but more than anything, I want to ensure it does not.
He touched my face gently, fingertips tracing a path over my lips. He had the softest expression in his eyes as he spoke.
In Delphine, it wasn't customary to hold back with things like this. With happiness scarce and tomorrow uncertain, I developed the reckless habit of jumping into things. Here, that isn't necessary, so I'm trying to make myself take things slow. I know we could share a room without anything happening, but I think it will be easier for me to refrain until we have a better idea of where this is going. Nothing that happens will change how much I care for you and want you to be happy, though.
I'm sorry for offering something that made you uncomfortable. He tipped my face up to him and pressed an impossibly tender kiss to my lips.
You didn't. I'm grateful for your trust and for the offer. And if you need me at any point during the night, you can always come get me.
I'm sure I'll manage to sleep through the storm. Don't worry.
Good night, Morgan.
Good night. And if the sofa is too uncomfortable, the offer stands.
I'll keep it in mind.
No, that was sweet in its own way. I liked it. I lay awake for a long time, thinking about Lance. Our relationship and how things were developing. He was holding back for my sake. I hadn't realized that. I thought long and hard about what he said, how living in Delphine had put him in the habit of jumping into things. I wasn't used to living like that in terms of not knowing what tomorrow would bring, but it didn't mean I never acted on impulse. It was true I'd been slow and cautious with my feelings for him, though. Too worried it was just an initial rush of gratitude and attraction, and that it would fade as the novelty of the waste wore off. I didn't believe that was going to be the case. It wouldn't be like me to be like that. I rolled over and looked at the space where I'd offered him to sleep. My hand made its way to the pillow there. Aww. What would it be like to wake up next to him? It would make me happy, I thought. I cared for him. Maybe it was time for me to stop holding the both of us back. I had feelings for him. It was obvious he also had feelings for me. It was time to stop second-guessing them and just let things develop how they wanted to develop. I fell asleep, still thinking about Lance, and, as strange as it sounded, our future. Dong. So sweet. Bittersweet and sweet. Is this the scorch mark? Yeah. It was so small compared to the damage it had done. A terrifying testament to the wrath nature sometimes hurled at us. When I remembered Finch lying there, damaged, and everyone frantically hovering over him, I turned away.
I believe they need a better protocol for dealing with sudden storms. It's not uncommon for this to happen during an active storm season. If they hadn't had so much to stow before it reached here, they would have been able to take shelter before the lightning was a problem.
Hopefully, they come up with one. And then we got attacked. My mouth was dry, words wouldn't form. My breath was coming in ragged gasps, and whatever Lance had been trying to say was forgotten as he pulled me to his chest and held me tight. He smelled like sand, like sweat, and it was faint, but like the wet soil in his greenhouse. I clung to him, trying to keep control of my emotions. The panic bubbled up as everything around me felt like it crumbled away. Everything I thought I found, everything I thought I could build. They found me. Why now? I was crying, sobbing. A choking mixture of hopelessness and rage threatened to overwhelm. Lance was softly telling me it would be okay as he stroked my back. But it wasn't until I realized how tense his body was, how strangely hushed his voice was, that I managed to gain control over myself and look up at him. His expression was tight, worried. What do we do?
We need to get it back to the house. I want to scan the information inside. It was almost definitely recording.
Okay. I'm gonna guess it's emotional this time. Oh yeah, definitely emotional. This is all my fault. I should have just gone with Endgame and none of this would have happened. Now they found me, and because of that, they found you.
You don't know that.
But what if they have? It's not just me they'll be after. They'll want to find you too. And if they realize what happened to you back then... I should never have come here. You should have just let me die.
Enough! I don't want to hear something like that. Please. Please don't say something like that, Morgan. I would gladly repeat all my actions until now.
Man, it's not, it's a rare occurrence when Lance has an exclamation mark when he's talking. Oof.
I would bring you here no matter the danger. Every single time if given the choice to do it, over and over again.
He wrapped me into another hug.
I know everything feels uncertain again, but please don't say things like that.
I'm sorry. I mumbled the words against his chest over and over. I shouldn't let that bitter darkness swallow me up like that, but I felt so helpless. It was stupid of me to think I had got away, to get comfortable and forget what had brought me here in the first place. Okay, not yet. I had trusted too much in the size of the wastes and hadn't given enough thought to the desperation and determination of the people seeking me. What if they come out here looking for us?
No one just waltzes out into the waste. Not even Delphine. Why did they just release me out here and watch instead of coming out themselves? They can't do it that easily. One person can go undetected. A team? No. They won't be able to cross the entire Twilight region on the far side of the sea itself, then trek all the way out here without being noticed.
But they're not going to just ignore this either. Nope, still not yet.
They'll probably try to smuggle a team into a dayside dome like Asteri, and get into the waste unnoticed from there. That will take some time to set up. And they can't do it without me observing. Just because they know you're here doesn't mean they're going to come knocking on the door tomorrow.
But they would come knocking. That was the point. Alright, there we go. Now we're caught up.
I'll be here with you through this. You don't have to react in desperation. We can watch them and plan.
That's what I'm worried about. Dragging someone else into all this. Dragging you into this. I don't want you to have to relive the trauma you've already been through with these people.
I helped you all knowing the risks.
Did you consider the risk of sparking a global war because the people looking for me find the physical location for a planetary computer system you can control?
I had considered that, yes.
And the personal fallout you'll endure if they find you?
I'm not one to act before weighing the options, Morgan.
I'm sorry. I know I'm just freaking out about all this again. It's probably exhausting for you.
Of course not. I'm not wholly unconcerned with the situation, no matter how I may come across. I do hope you realize that. I suppose I've just learned that sometimes you have to allow a situation to come a little closer before you can formulate a plan. You can create contingency upon contingency based on speculation, but if the flow of events goes an unexpected way, all your plans become worthless. I suppose that's why I've adopted a somewhat wait-and-see approach to things. I know that sort of approach can be stressful for others. Though I admit we might be better off if I had given more thought to what might happen if they found you back when I first brought you here. I trusted the distance, the size of the search area.
Don't go blaming yourself for this.
Then you don't blame yourself either.
Alright, I won't. I feel like I used to be an optimist before all this happened. Now I can't help but catastrophize and... Catastrophize? Is that how you say that? Yeah, I think so. Now I can't help but catastrophize and worry about the worst case scenarios. I wasn't like this before.
I suppose dealing with a few worst case scenarios will do that to you.
Maybe. We know that bot was recording everything and transmitting the files. Is it possible to delete the recording before anyone sees it?
I've been working on it, but the system the files have gone to is heavily protected. Looking into it isn't a problem, but deleting without leaving evidence behind is the difficult part. If there is evidence of tampering, it will raise some flags. But that will be my first step. If I can remove the files before anyone takes note of them, the problem will be solved. As of now, even with my abilities...
I took his hand in mine, intertwining our fingers. He smiled and held my hand tight. If it doesn't work, then we'll come up with another plan. You can only do what you can do.
It has been a very stressful few days, Morgan. We should get some good sleep tonight and see what tomorrow brings.
He kissed the top of my head and hugged me gently.
By then, we should know how seriously Nyx is taking whatever information has been transferred, and we can go from there.
You're right. Of course. We'll do that.
For now, I think it would be nice to go inside and have dinner. Perhaps think of other things for just a while. This situation isn't going anywhere.
I nodded and stood, letting out an annoyed sigh. And maybe tomorrow I'd be thinking a little more clearly and a little more calmly. I smiled at him. Thank you for... everything. As usual. He pulled me into a careful hug.
And as usual, I appreciate the thanks, but it's unneeded in this case. More than anything, I wish for you to be able to stay here and live in peace. I don't intend to let others interrupt that or get away with trying.
Me too. I feel the same way. We just had to come up with a plan to deal with it so that wouldn't happen. We went back inside to clean up, to have dinner, and we did our best to steer clear of the discussion, at least for the time being. And for a while, everything felt normal. We ended up on the sofa, having tea, and curled together with my head on his shoulder until I started nodding off. We finally said goodnight and went to try to get some rest. Interesting. I think that was when they made out originally, right? Hold on, I gotta check a thing. Yeah, it was. Okay. So, no big smoochy smooch. Not surprising, because it is the sweet ending, but I'm like, is this the day? It was the day. A shuddering breath escaped me, and now my anxiety was through the roof again. The moment that thought occurred to me, it became an option, didn't it? Wait until the situation came closer, as Lance said. Or act now. What should I do? Whoa, okay. This is a new option, and I think... I hate it, but this is where we make the save for the bad ending. Wonderful. That's the one. That's the big bad one. But we get to avoid it for right now, and instead get up for a glass of water. I pushed such desperate thoughts away. There was no point in trying to come to some conclusion lying in bed in the middle of the night. But accepting that didn't mean I was going to sleep any. I sat up and pushed the blankets off. I'd just get up and get a glass of water. I wasn't thirsty, but lying in bed wasn't doing me any good. I got up and padded silently to the kitchen, trying to keep quiet as I retrieved the water. This is, I don't think we've ever seen this area in the dark before. Interesting. Not silent enough. Oh, hello. Lance appeared in the door moments later. I wasn't sure he'd even been asleep to begin with.
Morgan, is everything okay? You don't often get up at night.
Sorry. I was just thirsty. I didn't mean to wake you.
You didn't. I was already awake. Is something on your mind?
Only everything.
That will keep one awake at night.
What about you?
Just keeping an eye on things. Everything.
That will also keep you awake.
It will indeed.
Seeing him grounded me back in reality and helped diminish those anxious and unreasonable thoughts of leaving. I'm glad you realized it was unreasonable. Even if I brought the prospect of Endgame up to Lance and he was against it, there was no way I could abandon him and go back to them. My place was already here. Besides, I was forgetting something important. Vireo said if I became a citizen of one of their cities, Endgame's jurisdiction over me would be lessened. That might make it safer to reach out. But could it happen in time? Lance and I said goodnight again, and I retreated to the bedroom. I still decided I would talk to him about Endgame in the morning. A proper discussion. But this time in the context of how we would get their help without me having to go back. There had to be a way. I shut my eyes, hoping sleep would just come soon and erase everything for a while. Especially because I still had that annoying habit of waking far too early whether or not I slept.